Well, good morning.
Good morning.
So, you know what? I say, let's take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Let's do one more. Come on, really tap in, ladies. Come on. And we're going to hold it for 4 seconds and then exhale, okay? So let's take another deep breath. All right. So I needed that because if you are like me, who live busy lives, who have families and businesses and work, or just do things in your community, a lot goes on your shoulders. So we just needed to exhale. And one of the things that actually I will say saved my life through COVID is prayer, therapy, and deep breathing. If I wouldn't have taken deep breaths through the whole time of COVID, I really don't know how I would have made it. I thank you all so much for the wonderful bio and all of that. And one of my other jobs that I really take to heart is that I'm a healthcare advocate. I'm an associate executive director for a long-term care community. So you can imagine during COVID, it was really real. So for me to be here right now, I celebrate because it was through some prayers. It was through just reflection. It was through taking time to journal. It was through just the power of who God is. It was through a tribe of incredible women that I was able to find my voice in the midst of what we would say was one of the most horrible pandemics, and we're still going through. And not only were we fighting an invisible virus that no one knew to dodge or where to go from, but we were also dealing with social injustice. We were dealing with our world just really feeling heavy. And we were all dealing with that in our own personal ways. And we were all battling through COVID, trying to figure out who we are, what's going on, what's next, and are we going to come out of this okay? And we're here. So that's why we took deep breaths. Because we're here. So I just want to thank Cindy for just always opening her heart to see women empowered. She wants to equip women. She always wants to see women doing incredible and dynamic things. So you get to be a part of something that's really, really cool. Because Cindy just has been doing this for longer than I think I've known her for sure. But I even think that even in her youth, Cindy had it in her to want to give out, to love, and to touch people with the love of who God is. So I get the honor to come before you today to talk about communication and to find your voice. And what's interesting as women, that's a thing that don't we hear a lot? We talk a lot. We're emotional. We're sensitive. All those little things they try to put on us. However, communication, I really think women are dynamic at. I think that we actually, when we enter spaces and rooms, we bring in such power with our voices and our presence. And we sometimes lose ourselves sometimes in that. So, Cindy, being who Cindy is, when we were talking about this particular event, she gave me a beautiful scripture. And I had to laugh because I was like, Cindy's like, look, I'm gonna plug a little something in there and I want to see where you're going. And what's so incredible is when you're in alignment with each other. So that's why it's so incredible of who you surround yourself with, who you call your tribe, who's your combat boot, I like to say the combat boot terrain kind of people with you, those who are in the arena, those who are on high ground. And so she gave me this scripture, and I love the fact that the Lord gave it to her because it was one on my heart as well. It wasn't this particular scripture, but exactly what it was saying was what was on my heart to talk about today. And it's in Matthew 12:34. And it's the heart, not a dictionary, that gives meaning to your words. And that's the Message translation. Now, my favorite translation is the Passion translation. And she chose the Passion, so I knew we was in tune. Because she said, for what is stored up in your hearts will be heard in the overflow of your words. How many of us can believe that? That what's in our hearts will overflow. So we as women have to be mindful of what we got in our hearts, correct? We have to be mindful of what we bring into atmospheres, what we carry, because that's what will flow out of us. Okay, so she said, I am the COO of my household. I have 3 gentle giants. I call them gentle giants because my 15-year-old is 6'2". at 100 and maybe 95, and he might be like 6'3" now, because when he sleeps or winks or takes a nap, he grows. So I am the mom of 3 teenagers, and I have found that through COVID, I just literally want to put them on the curb and just put like sign, I just want to rent them out. I do want them back just for a little while. Could you take them? Because it was stressful. And I recognized that what was on my heart, right, the stress, the frustration, the uncertainty, all of those things would come out. Look at you, cutie. Would come out. I'm just so happy to see her. Would come out when I would interact with them. Literally what was in my heart was coming out onto them. And it was causing friction in my household. And I realized that I needed to recognize, okay, Kenya, what's stored up in here is actually coming out. And you're not helping situations or circumstances right now. And when we think about this event and the title of this event called Mastermind, it just made me think about that I had to become the mastermind in my household, the mastermind in my job, the mastermind for my business. And who's the ultimate mastermind but God, right? And he allows us and helps us to master our thoughts, our words, our heart, our feelings. And so when we allow him to be the mastermind of those things, what's in our heart comes from him. Because he allows us to master our voice. He allows us to master who we are, our identity, because our identity is in him, right? So when he tells us what's in your heart, he's not talking about just randomly speaking about things. He's saying, no, you are my daughter. Therefore, your heart belongs to me. So what comes out of it is me. And we have to remind ourselves of that often, because when I was talking to them 3 teenagers, no. That wasn't happening. I was just like, woo, I was frustrated. They were doing things that I just did not expect or imagine. I mean, COVID did that to all of us, right? Things that we didn't imagine. And then I was going to a job that was risky. My mother ended up with COVID and was in ICU for 12 days. I had at the same time, again, like I said, I work in long-term care. So I had 6 residents die in 1 week from COVID. And my heart was like, I didn't even know how to process what was going on. And then you get put in quarantine. So then, oh, by the way, you just right there with your thoughts and everything the uncertainty. And then you got 3 teenagers upstairs afraid and wondering. And I got my mother in ICU that I can't even touch. There were times I just thought I was going to sneak out. I was just going to park myself in the parking lot of the hospital just so I could be close to her. Just so I could say, okay, I'm here, I'm close to her. If anything goes wrong, I'm right here. And my heart was heavy. And I recognized that if I didn't check my heart, what was going to come out of it was not going to speak life into any situation or circumstance that I was in. So you know what I did? I got quiet. And I did deep breathing. And I just said, God, almost a song that says that you are closer than my next breath. That's who you are. So I'm going to ask God that you get closer than my next breath, because right now I don't have the right words. As a matter of fact, if I could be honest, I just wanted to cuss. I wanted to scream. I wanted to have temper tantrums. I wanted to be like, why and what's going on? And I deal with death. I could deal with, there was a time in a year I experienced almost 40 deaths in a year. I can deal with that. I've laid with those who are dying. I've rubbed their hair. I've fed them. That wasn't my problem. My problem was how fast this was taking people's lives. That these folks, although they were in their 80s and 90s, would not have died if it had not been for COVID. It was touching my heart. So I was dealing with why my son was rebelling in ways that I couldn't understand, because he just couldn't find his voice and understand the uncertainty of what COVID. So I quiet myself. So I want to encourage you ladies something. Because we are women, and because of all those emotions I told you I was dealing with, I realize God is the mastermind. So what we have to do is recognize your emotions are not bad. They're not. And I don't care what the world says. And since we got no men in here, I can talk about them for a minute. I can say that in society, men will say that we're emotional and we're so sensitive. And then we try to check ourselves in that. And we change who God actually designed us to be. You were meant to be a woman. You were born that way. He wanted you that way. All the emotions, the sensitivities, all of that was meant to be. What we have to pray is, God, would you make me stable? Would you, God, bring my emotions under control, your control? Would you allow my emotions to be the thing that when I enter the room, I bring in the very thing that God has given to women is that discernment and intuition, that I bring that into my spaces that I'm in, that my sensitivity matters, because if I didn't have the sensitivities, I could not be able to be the mom that I am. I couldn't serve the way that I serve. I couldn't do the work that I do. And the work I did before was with children. So I dealt with kids who dealt with assault and abuse, and I did preventative work. If I was not sensitive, if I did not care or have emotions, I couldn't lay with someone who's dying and pray with them to go and transition into the next. I couldn't be that person. So, and be able to be sane at the same time. So our emotions actually matter. So whoever has told you in your lifetime that you're too emotional, we throw that away. Whoever told you that you're too sensitive, we throw that away. What we do ask, though, is God, allow us to master those emotions. Allow us to master what that feels like when I'm sensitive. And get it sensitive in the spirit rather than that sensitivity that flows out of crazy that we sometimes get. We just have to ask God, I really want to come in alignment with your spirit, so my sensitivity is in that, so that I can come into spaces and recognize things. And now, as you notice, society is recognizing the power of women. The power when we are at the table, what we bring. So, ladies, when we go into spaces and we sit at the table, we're supposed to bring all of that of who we are. All of that. Our experiences, our emotions, our sensitivities, our voice. Now, our voice. You know, my daughter can talk a mile a minute. Like, I mean, there are times I just be like, wow, sweetie, you had all that in your heart. All that you wanted to say today. But she wants to express and emote and allow these things out. And so I told her, I said, I think it's wonderful that you talk and wonderful that you have this voice. When you are in spaces, because she'll say, Mommy, I'm sometimes in certain spaces and I just don't think they understand what I'm saying, or they don't get where I'm at. And I told her, I said, take a moment and pause and think about that. Are you saying anything that is solid in who God is in you? Or are you just using a whole bunch of words and flowering the area and the space and people can't catch what you're saying? And she was like, well, what do you mean? And I said, if you're just talking in circles sometimes just so that your voice is heard, because sometimes we as women will do that. You know, that's called nagging. We'll just be talking in circles and circles and circles just so our voice can be heard. We'll repeat the same thing. We'll say, you know. And I said, sweetie, is that what you're doing? And she said, well, maybe that is what I'm doing. And maybe that's why they're not catching what I'm saying. So I said, your voice is powerful and it matters. Just bring it in alignment to really what it's supposed to be saying. What do you want to say? It's important that you say it. Just say it. You don't have to go in circles. You don't have to repeat it 15 times. You don't have to nag. And I know that's hard because I got 3 teenagers and there are oftentimes I feel that's all I'm doing. Like that's all my voice is a nag sometimes. But that's not who God called women to be. We are not nags. We're not the dripping faucet. What is Proverbs? The dripping, we're not that. That's not who we are. We we tighten up who we are in Christ so that when our voice is heard, it is taken and respected. And so when we're in our workplaces, it's so important that we're strategic. When we're in our homes, strategic. When you're serving in your communities, when you're the activist in your neighborhood, strategic. Because then that's how we have our voice. We have a generation of women who have taken a vision, a passion, and hit the streets. They have brought their voice to it. They have made sure that people saw them and heard them. That's why we matter in society. We matter to the kingdom. We matter in our workplaces. We matter in our homes. We matter in our communities. We matter in our churches. Because we stand on shoulders of those who went before us. So now what we do is we create a ceiling so that the next generation has somewhere to stand, and we keep elevating it. So when we bring our voices, we strategically bring our voices because we want to make sure we're being heard. Now, I told you I was promoted to Associate Executive Director in an industry that actually is predominantly white male. If you were to look at the executive directors at that industry, you would see predominantly white males. It's also an industry that if you looked at the direct care, who's caring for people in hospitals and long-term care are people of color and women. But yet you look up here at the executive in the C-suite, there's no women and there's no, no people of color. But we're the ones serving and we're the ones caring for people. So here I go. I came from being a social worker. I wasn't even looking for the position. I actually started to look elsewhere because I said, okay, I've hit the ceiling. I'm ready to grow some more. And in an evaluation, my boss told me, he said, I saw some things you did during COVID and this pandemic, and we need you, and we have not tapped into some things. So God took a wall and created a door for me, because also my organization has about 100 years of history in long-term care. My community has been in Alexandria for over 60 years. They've never had an African-American female in the position of associate executive director. So I was like, okay, God, okay. So you want me here. So I had to start being strategic because I was sitting in rooms with white males and I was the only one. And I was quiet at first because I was a little nervous. And then I heard God say, I didn't bring you here to be quiet. And I didn't bring you here to sit. I brought you here to make change. And I brought you here to make sure somebody else could sit at the table. So I need you to speak. So I began to pray. So when I go into my office, I anoint my hands. And am I good on time? Okay. I anoint my hands, and I anoint my head, my ears. I cover my mouth, and I anoint my feet. And I asked God, I said, can you make sure that I'm in tune with the frequency of heaven so I'm hearing you when you talk? So literally when I go into rooms, I'm praying when I'm in there, like, because I get called into ad hoc meetings, like, you know, and I was like, okay, let me be ready. And I ask God, okay, can you anoint my words to be in alignment with you? And actually, would you anoint me to where I don't have to talk if I don't have to? Because another thing that we as women do is sometimes we feel we have to prove ourselves, right? That our confidence has to come in how we stand and how boisterous we are and how loud we get in spaces. That's not who God called us to be. We don't have to. Sometimes we feel we have to pull on those male dominant kind of characteristics about ourselves. We have to act like we're strong. We have to be this. No, we are women of faith and women of strength. And that's what we bring. And we don't have to be anything but what God called us to be. A woman who enters a space brings power into the room. Matters brings purpose into the space. And I had to remind myself that often because I was nervous. And I just got in this position in October. So I was very nervous. I was very like, okay. Because, I mean, this was now, I'm no longer, I was a department of one. I became now a department of like, I'm managing 16 people. I'm managing one of the largest departments of ours. I'm managing operations. I'm over fund development. And I was just like, I was a department of one that moved into to where I'm being seen by the CEO, where he's calling on me. And I was like, okay, I'm meant to be here. I have to remind myself that. And I want you to say that to yourselves right now. I'm meant to be here. Say it out loud.
I'm meant to be here.
Say it one more time, because I don't know if I heard everybody.
I'm meant to be here.
You are meant to be here. You're meant to be in the spaces that you enter. If you're in college, you're meant to be at the college you're at, and you make a purpose there. If you are still, if you're in your home, and that is your role as a homemaker, you are meant to be there. You were blessed and anointed and called to be there. If you are in the boardroom, you are meant to be there. If you're serving at church and you're preaching over the church, or you are serving, you are meant to be there. If you're behind a camera, you are meant to do that work. God called you to that. You are meant to be there. And that's what I have to remind myself often. No, I'm the associate executive director, and God, you called me that to be here. So I tell myself that. No, when my kids make me sick and make my nerves bad, you were meant to be their mother. All three of them jokers, you were meant to be their mother. You know, when I do this business and I ask God, okay, are you sure I'm supposed to be doing this podcast? Are you sure I'm supposed to be doing this incubator space? No, I am meant to do this. And that doesn't mean that most of the time our voice is coming out of some hardship, correct? Mm-hmm. And so the things that I began to step into made me feel like, well, God, there's so many things that I dealt with, so many things I dealt with. So I'm solo parenting those three kids because I'm divorced. And that voice would come in my ear of like, well, can a divorced woman do this? And can a divorced woman do that? With the job that I'm in, my degrees were in a totally different field. I just am one that always takes risk. I'm a risk taker. So I said, if this is what I want to do, I'm willing to do what I got to do. So I went back to school and I decided to go. The job I'm in requires education and certification I do not have. However, they are willing to pay for me to get the qualifications and the certification. And I had just 2 days of the most incredible Leadership Academy. I'm a fellow of a Leadership Academy over our governing body for my industry, Leading Age, that they asked me to be a part of and said, we'll pay for it. My CEO said, we'll pay for it because we believe that it would benefit you. So I want to tell you why your voice matters. And when people start telling you you're supposed to be here, believe them. Believe you're supposed to be there. And take everything that God is getting ready to bring to you to make sure you become the greatest person you are. Now, I asked you all to listen to a TED Talk that Cindy sent. If you didn't, that's okay. But it had some dynamic things, and she was funny. It was 12 minutes of just solid, straight to the point. It was a woman giving her voice, and she was speaking about communication. And I loved what she was saying because it was so true, and it was the best. Now, I've taken tons of classes, and I'm sure all of us have. We've taken workshops and seminars and things talking about communication, talking about how do you talking about your voice in a workplace or the places that you find yourself. This one, to me, was the funniest and so real one. I loved it. So I wanted to pull a couple things from there that I like. One of the things I really enjoyed is she said, and this is we as women, we are automatically, because of who we are, the nature that God made us, we're nurturing beings, that when we're in conversation with people, we should always want to leave somebody inspired. We want to learn something. We want to glean something. We want to make sure they feel like they've been seen and they've been heard. And that's always been a thing of mine, because I did a writing course, and it said, where do you feel most at home? Most at home is when I feel seen, when I feel heard, when there's consistency, when my voice matters. That is when I feel at home. So when we're having conversations and dialogue, it's important that you make somebody feel home, that you look at them, you smile at them, you let them know you matter in this space. I'm glad you're here. And that they feel inspired and they walk away. That was something I like that she said. I like that she said, don't repeat yourself, which sometimes we do, you know. Don't start in the weeds. Actually, just stay focused on what they're saying, into the details, and you will glean and be able to catch what you're supposed to catch, and they will be able to be open to hear what you have to say at the same time. Listen. Now, that's a big thing, because how many of us, we get, and I'm like, you see how I communicate, and I'm reeling, and I'll be like, ooh, girl, that's so good, and ooh, and you want to interrupt someone because it sounds so good. But I love what she said, listen, if your mouth is open, you're not listening. That's so important for us as women, that when we're communicating, even when we're in these spaces, and especially like when I would find myself in the boardroom, I would say, listen, Kenya. So I'm a note taker. One of my favorite apps is Evernote. I think I have over 5,000 notes in there. I actually will take notes when I'm having a conversation with you, just so I can know that I'm listening and that I'm in tune with what you're saying. Because I'm also one that I believe, and there is a technique that when you write, it goes into your memory. So that's something I do, so I can remember what you're saying, and I can make sure I'm listening and in tune with it. Because I like what she said. Never has listening got themselves out of a job. Talking usually talks you out of a job. Never has listening. Matter of fact, listening sometimes will actually give you the opportunity to gain insight and things that you need. So I want to remind you, ladies, that this, if you hadn't had a chance, go out and listen to the TED Talk. It's a lot of fun. It will make you think about how to communicate in your homes, in your community, how you serve people, how you do it in your jobs. But one of the things I wanted to leave you with is I want to encourage you to journal. Now, let me tell you, I was rebellious against journaling for a little while, because I was like, what? And I moved so fast, I just couldn't even understand why would I pause to do all of this time. But in my writing course, I realized something. And the journaling gave me an opportunity to release. So all them words that we have, all that stuff that we got in our hearts that we want to say that maybe we should not be saying, can be placed into this journal. But I did something different also. And I do jars. I did a jar from this writing course, and I'm going to encourage you in a writing prompt. So this is some homework, and if you didn't know, when I do coaching, and even when I do the podcast, I always leave folks with like, oh, and this is something I want you to do and take home. And this is what some homework. So you got homework from Kenya today. I want you to journal, and in your journaling, what am I releasing to receive? When you want to find your voice, and you want to tap into who God called you to be and what that identity is and what you're supposed to be, your confidence in who he is, and there's a confident humility. I'm not telling you to walk around arrogant or any of that, but I am telling you, because of who you are, you should walk with confidence. Because of who you called to be, the song that, matter of fact, Cindy was playing Maverick City, and there's a song called Gyra, and it says, I'm already loved. I'm already chosen. So walk into the room like, I'm already loved. I'm already chosen. So that's how, when your voice, that's your voice. Sometimes it's how you carry. So what are you releasing to receive? So I have a jar that I received. So I wrote little notes of what I'm receiving from my journal of how I journal. I then put little notes because then I sit this around and I pick out one a day. This is my release. So you see it's closed, right? Because I ain't trying to have these things come back out. So this is what I'm releasing. So I put notes in here. In my writing course, I was challenged to do 50 of what you're releasing, 50 of what you're receiving. Seems a lot, right? But once you start writing, you start realizing. So I want you to journal. I'm releasing this so I can receive this. You're receiving your voice. You're receiving your purpose. You're receiving your passion. You're receiving the confidence. You're receiving all of those things. If it's a job, I'm receiving that. You know, if it's a relationship, I'm receiving that. If it's a business, I'm receiving that. I'm releasing the things that the enemy has put on me and told me I could not do. What the world has told me I could not do, I release that. So today I pulled out one. I'm receiving space to heal and breathe. That was my one I pulled today. And then I get to come in here. And I get to talk. And then part of my talking is my healing. So I wanted to tell you that too. When you're journaling, you're releasing. But your voice has healing to it. It has healing properties. You can help somebody heal with your voice. You can heal with your voice. So I just want to encourage you ladies that as you're going about your today and you're doing your journaling, to make sure you remember that who you are and where you are is meant to be. Remember we did that? We spoke with our voice and said, I belong here. I'm right where I belong. You right where you belong. Even if it don't feel right. Even if it feels a little uncertain. Even if it's uncomfortable, even if it feels like pure hell, it's okay. Because God will equip you, empower you to go through it, right? Because often we know we're not going under it. That song that says, no, I can't go under, I can't go around it, I can't go over it, I got to go through it. And it's with your voice. It's with the power of who you are, all right? So I can't wait for y'all to like kind of, I put my stuff like where I'm on Instagram and Facebook. So I want y'all to DM me what you're releasing and what you're receiving. You know, let's hold each other accountable for what we're releasing and what we're receiving. Thank y'all so much for this time today. This was so good. Throw away the whole theory of work-life balance. I just figured that, I don't know who came up with that word, whoever came up with that. I decided I was going to do work-life integration. I was going to do work-life harmony. That's what I decided I was going to do. And I have been asked, like, do you have 28 hours when I got 24 hours? That's not it. I think it's what, for me, is I give time to that which is so important to me. So I'm willing to sacrifice time in areas so that I can accomplish the things. And one of the things that me and my 3 kids sat down and I told them, there were 2 things I can be the best mom if you allow me to dream. So you got to let me dream and do this business and do this, because what I'm doing is, it's not about me. I'm laying foundation for legacy. So what I'm building, you will be able to benefit from. I'm building a ceiling. You won't start here. You will start where I leave. When my day is gone here, you will step upon the ceiling of where I left. And so that, and I said, if you allow me to be an adult, like, you know, so that I could just have relationships outside of y'all 3. Could I have friendships? Could I have people that love, and it builds me up? So the multitask is interesting, and I won't lie, there are days that I feel like I've dropped some things. But what I do is just give myself grace. I extend grace to myself. I ask God for that day, okay, so I got a lot going on. What's something that I'm not supposed to do? Because I'll have my plans, but what does he say? A man can have his plans, but his plans will prosper, and they will be the ones that are successful. So that's what I actually want, is his plans that are successful. And sometimes I don't listen. Sometimes I'm trying to fit it all in and do it all. Sometimes I am successful, and yesterday was one of those days that I just felt like, wow. I was at work. I did the leadership fellowship thing. I came home and I posted on Instagram about the things of the website, the podcast. I did an IG Live yesterday. I came home to make sure kids got off because two went with their dad. My daughter went to work. And then I even had a friend come over and help me put a grill together. All that happened yesterday. But a lot. And I was then taking time to study and prepare myself for this. So some days it looks really good. And then other days, I absolutely put it all down. And I go and sit on my couch, which I fell back in love with my couch. Because I didn't understand the power of stillness or the gift of stillness and rest. And I recognized that if I could be still and rest, I could hear from God in so many greater ways. The visions would come, the dreams would come, how I was supposed to lead my family would come, what I was supposed to do at that job, if I just got still. So I fell in love with my couch again. And I got TVs in my house, but I never watched TV, and all of a sudden I just said, you know what, I'm just going to turn TV on all of a sudden. So I don't know if I answered that question really well. I would say work-life integration. I would say have grace with yourself. I would say honor the gift of stillness because it will help you find what exactly you're supposed to be doing. It is a gift, y'all. The world says hustle and grind. God says grace. Let's listen to him because he'll direct us exactly how we're supposed to.
Thank you. Next question. Can you unpack what it means to be strategic? Exactly. What does that mean?
So I didn't, because of timing, I love Nehemiah. Y'all know the story of Nehemiah. So Nehemiah, the walls of Jerusalem were down. I'm going to just paraphrase real fast. He was wanting to build the walls back, and he was getting attacked on all sides. There were folks that didn't just want him to build this wall back. He was strategic, and his strategy was prayer. He went before God, and he would get the strategies of what he was supposed to do. Now, mind you, he was on the wall, and he was one, when he was strategic, he knew that there were enemies that did not want him to do what he wanted. So he had a weapon in one hand and a hammer in the other. When they showed that picture of Nehemiah, they showed he had a weapon in one, and he was a hammer in the other, because he was strategic of building that wall. He was not going to stop. But he also had a weapon in his hand to fight against the enemy who was going to try to stop him. So his strategy was he would always go before God and pray. He would ask God, what am I supposed to do? How do I talk to the people? How do I encourage them to keep building even when there's war coming, people are talking, people telling him you can't do it. Why are you up here trying to do it? He was strategic, and he would not stop what God told him to do. That's a strategy, because sometimes people who might be meaning you well will try to get you off course to what you know God has called you to do. Your strategy is, what he said is what I do. And when I'm in prayer, I'm in tune with him. Now, I know I say prayer, and I laugh when people be like, just pray about it, and you just be like, that's cute. What does that mean? In your journaling, too, I like this process of taking a moment to pray, step away for 30 seconds, come back, and journal what you feel comes on your heart. And I like to say vomit on the paper. You don't have to just write what you feel was coming to you when you prayed that time. And see how God just begins to let you use the pen in your hand to write different things down. Give you strategies for things you just prayed about. I also believe in being strategic with partnership and collaboration. I can't do this alone. If you feel you can, that's a joke. You can't do this alone. You have to collaborate and partner with others. So who's in your tribe? And everybody shouldn't be in your tribe. Everybody shouldn't have access to you like that. But who's in your tribe that you can be vulnerable and transparent and will hold you accountable? That's a strategy. That's being strategic. Any great leader will tell you they had people who they went to get advice, counsel, and accountability. That's a strategy. Yeah, so those are mine. That prayer, staying to what God called me to do, and surrounding myself with people that will hold me accountable and give me wise counsel. Releasing are the things that are holding you back. So, I'll be transparent. So one of what I wrote is, I said, I'm releasing others' opinions of me that don't line up with God's opinion of me. I will no longer accept those lies. That's releasing, right? So then if I'm releasing that, what am I receiving? Let's see. Here we go. I receive that I am a special edition, and I'm just not for everyone. So I'm releasing the opinions of others.
Yes.
Right? I'm releasing the lies that maybe someone told or spoke over me. That means even in your past. And hi, ladies, we carry stuff sometimes. We bring stuff into our workplace. We bring stuff into our relationships. We bring stuff over our kids, the way we were raised, the way our ex treated us, the way the job did us, the way the church did us. Let's release that mess. And I'm saying that, not saying that I haven't had issues with that. That's why it was important for me to create the jar. You got to do the work. Okay, I'm not going to play with you and tell you, like, oh, just go and do one journal entry and that's going to be it. No, I'm sorry. You got to do the work. If it wasn't for Jesus and therapy, I couldn't be where I'm at. I've been through a lot. I've walked through a lot. I don't look like what I've been through, but I've walked through some stuff. But if it was not for the work to release, to receive and accept that I'm a special edition. I'm just not for everyone, and I release everybody else of their opinion over me, and I won't take those lies.
Okay.
Good.
Next question. We use our voice, but do we respond to the people who doubt us?
Look, that's a good question. Sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes, when I taught kids, and again, like I said, I was working in heavy work, so sometimes the courts would require a child to go through our course if they had been molested or sexually abused or something. Our course would teach them skills to be able to, in their body, defend themselves with their body and their voice. And so I would teach the younger kids this thing called the trash can. And I'd say when somebody's throwing trash, where does the trash go? They would say in the trash can. I said, oh, don't go on the floor, right? No. And we don't carry it in our pockets. No, we throw it in the trash can. The same thing is when people say mean things or doubt you or hurtful words towards you, you don't take those things into your heart. You don't carry them with you. You throw them in your trash can. So I would teach them this little trash can. I say, get your little trash can or create one in your mind. And I said, if you need a dumpster, you can make it a kickstand trash can. That's the same thing I do in my life today, I'll tell you. There are some things people will say that I just throw away. And I have no response. Because I don't need to waste my time, my energy, or my voice on what they have to say. I just be still. Let me tell you, you want to know the best communication you can use is quiet. Not the mean quiet, because we as women can get quiet.
Right.
We can get quiet. It can be something different. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a quiet of knowing who you are. And I ain't got time for that. I mean, that kind of quiet of just like, I'm not even going to waste my time or my energy or actually my voice to go on your doubts. I'll throw them away, though, because words have power and they hurt. So we're not going to play and say that somebody won't say something to you that don't hurt. I'm just telling you, please catch it. Throw it in the trash can before it finds itself a seed into your heart. Catch it. And if it has found a seed in your heart, that's okay. Go dig it. Go do some digging. Go get dirty. Get in your garden, get dirty, dig that joint up, do some pruning, weed it out, and plant some new seeds.
Okay. How do you identify and then develop a relationship with a strong mentor or successful colleague who can help you move your goals forward?
Oh, that's a good one. And an important one. Because we as women, again, will feel we could do it all. I got it. I could do this. I could do that. You are more where is it? Two are better than one? That meant us too, y'all. That meant us. That when you have somebody with you, they see things that you don't see. They call out things that are in you, right? That are in you that need to come out. So I say one, I know it sounds like, okay, here she go. I do say pray. Because I say pray because you want to know, you might have an idea of what you want, but that might not be who God wants to line you up with. Why do I say that? Because you might say, I want a mentor for my business. God's like, no, boo, I need you a mentor for your marriage. I want a mentor for my career. I didn't want a career coach. And God said, no, I need you to get therapy and counseling for yourself. I need you to have accountability for you right now, because you can't do the business, you can't do the job, you can't do any of those other things if you're not right. So I say pray, because God will direct you on exactly what is it that you're supposed to be lining up with somebody for. And then I tell you to go be brave. Women, we are brave in so many things. If somebody was coming at our child, they tell you the power and the strength of a woman that can lift a car off of her child, fight a bear. We'll be so brave in certain things, but we won't be brave for ourselves. We won't go after the thing that matters to us most. And if you need somebody to walk with you with, and you see God saying, because God will prompt you and put you in spaces around people that's like, okay, something about her, I need to be close to her. You ever get that feeling where you just like, man, I got to be close to her, something about her? Then be brave. Just brave and say, sis, I've been praying for a mentor. I've been praying for counsel, good counsel, accountability. I wonder if, you and I can have coffee and I can talk to you about some of the thoughts I have. Now, some people may not have the capacity to be your full-out mentor, because mentorship is work. Mentorship is someone being completely dedicated to your success over a certain period of time. So that's someone really saying, we're going to mentor. That means I'm checking in on you. I'm giving you homework. I'm holding you accountable. But they may not be able to be that, but somebody could be someone that you can touch base with, and you can make that. I always say, come with what you want. When we're so general, that messes people up. Especially people who are busy, and you're trying to get those folks who are successful mentors, like in your field, or mentor for you at you're a mom or in business. The people are busy. So come with what you want. So I always say, come with 3 goals. So if it's like, I've been praying, and even if it's someone that is not Christian, you could just be like, I've been thinking about getting a mentor, and I've been around you. I really like the way that you handle business, or you do certain things. Can I have coffee with you to just talk to you about a few goals and see how you and I may be able to align? But when you come with those goals. Now, don't come with the big lofty, some of them big goals are for you to work out. The person who's with you is to give you advice and counsel and maybe lead you to networking. So you might say, I'm looking for a network. That's a great thing to ask someone that may not have time to mentor you. I'm looking for a network. Could you network? Can you connect me with a couple people in this thing that I'm passionate about? I'm looking for accountability. Do you mind if maybe I can check in with you once a month about this goal to make sure that I'm accomplishing it? That can be something somebody could do for you. The other thing is, you can ask, I could really use a mentor. And I know you're busy, and if you have the time, I would love if maybe twice a month, could we do a phone call? And I will beforehand, you're gonna tell the person because sometimes, and that's me, I'm coming to you to let you know I'm serious. One, I'm not playing with your time. I'm not playing with what I want to come and gain stuff. So I might say, can I call you twice a month? And would you mind if I email you the goals ahead of time so that in our call, we're a little bit more effective and productive in our call? And when you come like that to somebody, they're like, okay, you're serious. I can make time for that. If I can't do 2 a month, I could do 1 a month. Yes, please email me. How about we do that? We email and do exchange that way. And then on our call, we'll go through those things. So that's how I have gotten great people in my life to mentor me, be accountable. Cindy Dennis don't know it, but she is actually one that is like spiritually a counsel for me, and truly like a mentor for me spiritually. I know Cindy's mad busy, so I don't call on her all the time, but Cindy knows when I need something, I'll send her a text message. She prays about it, she comes back with something for me. That's all I need from that, because I know how busy she is, and that's what but then I have others that I walk really close with. So you have to be mindful of the person. Don't get in your feelings if they say they can't give you all their time. but ask God strategically so you know. So I knew Cindy was busy, but God told me she was somebody who could speak into my life. So I was strategic with how I contacted her, so I could gain what I needed from her and also respect her and her time. Does that make sense?
Before I read the next question that we prepared, does anyone else have a question that they didn't write down before I proceed?
Yes. I wanted to know how are you staying so trim and fit?
Hey, boo! That's funny. Yeah, I move a lot. I do. And I believe that I will tell you through COVID, exercise, and I do, let me tell you, because you know, you be laughing at these people, be like, I'll be in the gym for an hour, I'm like, who, what? Like, that's not my life. I mean, I celebrate you if you do that, and you got time for that. That's hallelujah for you. That's not my life. So what I did is, I had an app called Fit On. I had to ask God, okay, do I want to be fit, or do I feel like I have to be fit, right? And that's the question you have to ask yourself, because if you claim you have to, you will never be. But if you want to, you'll do whatever it takes to be fit in your way. Because as women, we get caught up in what society tells us we're supposed to look like. I think we're supposed to be beautiful with our curves, our dimples, all that, the scars, the stretch marks, all of that makes you beautiful. That you're this beautiful, it is imperfect beauty. But I knew for me to be sane through COVID, through what I was walking through, to be fit was what I wanted. So I had an app called Fit On. And what I loved about this app is they had these quick workouts. So I could do arms for 5 minutes and do legs for 5 minutes, sweat, do a stretch. I did a 15-minute exercise. I felt great, and I would do it 3 times a week. I also implemented yoga. I know sometimes folks are like, yoga, whatever. Yoga for me, I just brought Jesus in yoga. I don't know the other stuff that they talk about in yoga, the namaste, I don't know all of that, but I know who Jesus is. So when I did yoga, and at the end of my yoga, I'd be like, thank you, Jesus, for being Lord. And that was how I did it. And it centered me, grounded me, because I will tell you, when I was getting the calls about the people dying through COVID, and I had to be the one, even in quarantine, to call their family members to tell them, I laid on the floor, and there's a yoga pose that you just lay flat on the floor, your arms are out, your legs are spread, to ground yourself. If I wouldn't have done that, because I didn't even have tears. I didn't even know. Matter of fact, I wanted to cry, but had no voice because I was hurting so bad for all that was happening. Yoga grounded me, so I started doing yoga and deep breathing. I got a book called Breath, and I do these little deep breaths, breathing techniques. I found out through surgery, unfortunately, in 2019, in December, I went in for one thing, which was supposed to be a fibroid that was supposed to take an hour, and I ended up 6 hours later, and I had 3 tumors, I had a cyst, they had to remove blood from my abdomen, they removed my appendix, they took my ovary, they took my fallopian tubes, so you can kind of say some of that weight went with that. I came out like, what just happened? And I realized God saved my life. So I decided my life was important to me. So, and then I found out I had endometriosis, right? And I didn't know what that meant, and so I started to feel the pain of that, and I just decided, well, again, my personality is I'm not one to let anything hold me. So I said, fitness helped. Exercising, yoga, eating well helped. And I love desserts, so you know, Jesus be offense. But I knew that in order for me to live the life I wanted, that God was allowing me to see 46 in 2020. He was allowing me to see my life, that my mama came out of COVID. And oh, by the way, my mom just had a mild stroke. The devil is a liar, I tell you. He thinks he's taking her life, but he can't have her. And so my fitness has helped me stay sane. And I want it. You can't be fit if you don't want it, to be honest. So, yeah, that's how I'm doing it, girl. I want it, and I'm trying. Say, fuck it.
What's the app name again?
Fit On. That's good. Yeah. You know what? Because I won't lie. My previous career was I was a software engineer, and that again, I was African American female in an engineering field. There was not many women, and at that time, I felt I had to be boisterous. I had to come into the space all strong, and I had to make sure my voice was heard. And I found that I just didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel good in who I was, and I wasn't actually getting anything accomplished. I was causing more friction and conflict, and I was being more confrontational when I came that way. So what I decided to do was just be knowledgeable in my trade. And again, in this new field, in this new job, I felt not knowledgeable. Sometimes I felt like I was incompetent. So I would ask God, would you make me a big thinker? And would you make me have the mind of Christ? So that the things I don't know, you're going to make sure I know. So that when I speak, I'm going to speak with the wisdom you've placed in me. And if I don't have anything to say, I'm going to be quiet. So when I'm in the room with my executive and the CEO and all of them, I sit quiet at first. And I pay attention to what's being said in the room. I'm big on eye contact, as you see. I like to look at people and see people, so I make sure that they see me talking to them. Because a lot of times I've found in rooms, women will put their eyes down or their head down. And I say, no, put your head up and look someone in the eye. Now, you don't stare at them and glare, but you definitely are looking to let them know, I see you, you see me, I hear you, please hear me. And so I do that. I'm really big on that. And then I will listen to what they have to say. And then I make sure what I have to say is going to make sense to what they said. Sometimes we do a lot of talking, and that's not effective, especially with men. Because men will tune you out and pull out only what they want. They will. And that's in the workplace too. They will only pull out what they want, or they will shun you out and feel like you don't have anything to say because you're a woman. So when you're in the space, quiet, listen. And if you're in a group and you need to be heard, I am one that will put my hand up. And I'll wait. I'll be patient. And if I'm not called on, and I find they tell you there's a pause sometimes that happens between, it's like a 7-second pause is what they call in communication. I'll wait for the pause, and then I'll say, you know, I would like to add to that if I could, please. And thank you for giving me an opportunity to bring my voice to that topic, or thank you for allowing me to speak on that particular thing. So I do say something. I will let a pause because I want to make sure they're finished with what they're saying. And if they don't check me when I put my hand up, I'm not okay with being ignored, especially if I have something that will add value to what's being said. Now, if I don't have anything and I just feel like I got to say something in the room, I'll quiet myself, and I've asked God to check me on that. That I don't always have to say something. You know, just because, and I think sometimes we feel that way because we're the only woman in the room. We got to say something because that'll make us, you know, make them feel that we are competent and knowledgeable and intelligent. No, because sometimes you can say something out your mouth that makes you look stupid. I mean, I'll be honest. Sometimes you're meant to be quiet. And that's okay to walk with humility. But if you have something to say, shame on you for not talking. Okay, don't let the room intimidate you. You are a woman who is already loved, already chosen. And what did we say out loud? You belong there. So I often say that when I come into spaces, I'll just say, I belong here to myself. I'm supposed to be here. I belong in this room. Now God give me wisdom. Make me a big thinker. Let me speak with purpose. Don't let me just be talking just to be talking. And sometimes women have an issue. We do that, unfortunately, because we feel we got to prove ourselves. You don't have to prove anything. You already in the room. You already in the room. That right there matters because you're in the room. So take that credit. You know, when you start feeling some kind of way and you're like, oh my gosh, you know, they're going to think something. No, boo, you already in there. You already matter. And then who cares if they didn't want you in the room? That doesn't matter. God already put you in the room. With you being in the room, you matter. Now, if you have something to say, make sure your voice is in alignment with what you have to say. That it has wisdom attached to it. It has purpose attached to it. And what did in the TED Talk, she was like, can you be brief, get out the weeds, and say what you have to say. Again, say what you have to say, get out of the weeds, because sometimes we as women feel we have to expound on things. No, you don't. And if you feel you have more to add to it, follow up with an email. Follow up with a meeting that you can say, could we have a meeting after this? I'd like to talk more about that. They respect that more than you take up the room in the space and you're talking and nobody else knows what you're talking about and they're like, she's just talking. Be brief, get out the weeds, say what you have to say. And then if you want more to say, follow up with an email ask them for a meeting after that. I hope I answered that.
Did she answer the question?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. How do you de-escalate communication issues with other women in the workplace? For example, gossip, drama. You know how women can do sometimes.
Shoot, men can do it too. That's a good one, because we can get caught up in workplace drama, and in my workplace, it's interesting because we do care, right, and we serve people, and so there's a lot of people who are sensitive in their nature, and they're supposed to be because they're caring for people. But because they're sensitive in nature, they become sensitive to everybody else's business and all these other things and catch feelings for stuff. And so there's often stuff that I just be in work like, are we dealing with this right now? For real? Is this what we're doing? But I'm one that I believe in managing the situation and taking it head on and being graceful in it and making room and space let everyone be heard. So I've had situations where I've had to pull people into my office, and I'll say, I understand that each of you have something on your mind and on your hearts about a particular situation. The first thing I'm going to ask you is, does the situation have anything to do with work? And if it will not impact your work, is it something that we need to be discussing here and causing that drama here? And that sometimes catches people off guard when I'm like, if it don't have anything to do with here, I think we need to pause on that and pause on that drama. However, if it is affecting you and affecting your work and affecting your job, let's take time to talk about it. And so I'll ask them, in this space, I'm going to ask that we respect everybody's voice. I'm asking that you give everybody an opportunity to speak. And if you do cut someone off, the conversation's over, and I'm done because I just took time out of my day to give you space and time to talk. If you're going to start arguing and going over each other, I will remove myself from the space, which means y'all got to get up out of my office. So I do that really, and they'd be like, okay, Kenya's not playing, she's very clear. So I will ask them to respect each other. I will say, can I have and I don't care who brought what issue to what. I'll ask the first person, can you share what you think? And I sometimes even put a timer to say, I'm giving you 90 seconds to talk now, because we ain't gonna be in here for 12 minutes. You talk and the next person only got 5 because you talking over them or we losing time. So I usually, if I find that it's a situation that has caused a lot of drama and I know there's heat, like they're hot, I will only give them a certain amount of time to share just in that moment. And then I give the other person time. And I will ask them, do you feel like you were heard right now? And do you feel like you understand what this person is saying and that person is saying? And then we go in and finish talking from there. Now, I've had situations where I haven't had the honor to bring people into my office where I will have to catch them out having some drama. Nurses are arguing and fighting and all kind of drama. So then I will meet them right where they are, and I will ask them, is there any way that we can table this conversation to a time that you can come to me and we can talk? And if you feel that you can't do that right now, what can solve the problem now? Is there anything either one of you could do or me could do to solve it now? And sometimes they're like, no. So I'm like, well, why are we fighting right now then? If we can't solve it, why are we wasting time and energy right now to do it right here? And it sometimes takes someone to make them feel like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I'm like, you're wasting your time right now. If you say it can't be solved now, and it's not going to be fixable right now, can we go and do our work and do what we're supposed to do? And then if you need a space to come, I can create a space for you two to talk. So you don't get in trouble. You don't get reprimanded because you're out here acting crazy and you're yelling and you're fighting and carrying on in front of our residents and our family members. And that has been effective. That has worked. I've also won that because of my role. I have people who were once my peers. Now I manage, or now are my colleagues. So they come to me in a way because maybe they don't like my executive director. So they want to come to me, who was somebody that was their peer. So I have to check them and tell them, I appreciate your opinion. I can understand you being frustrated. I just cannot engage in the conversation with you on that topic right now. But thank you for sharing with me though. And I want to hear you. and I'll give you space to hear, but I have no comment or opinion on it, and I can't really talk to that right now. So I will tell them. Now, does that make people feel comfortable? No. And I'm sure some have walked away like, Kenya thinks she's this, and I'm like, I don't want to be that way, but I know I have to honor the authority. And even if I agree with them, I still have to honor the authority. I might have moments when they leave and be like, "Who was she right, Lord? Was she right? She was so right." But when we're in leaders, we are called different. We're called to show ourselves up a little bit different. That's hard. And even when we're upset and frustrated, and we would love to get into gossip, we would love to talk about so-and-so, God's called us to be different. And that doesn't mean there ain't moments sometimes where I might catch myself about to be like, "Girl, no, I can't go there with you, I'm sorry." I have to catch myself and be like, "I can't go there with you." I hope I answered that okay.
Okay. So we have 5 more minutes left, and I think this is a question that may apply to more than one person in the room. It says, how do you overcome the feelings of fear that wants to keep you from speaking up, sharing ideas, or asking for what you want?
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. I think for me, and I'll just talk I'll talk real candid and transparent. I often have to remind fear of where it belongs. And I tell fear, you can go to hell. You don't belong here. And I'm very strong in using the words like that, because fear will stop you from some of the greatest things you're supposed to do. And I have found fear has stopped shame, because sometimes we call it fear, but it's shame. Sometimes we call it fear and it's guilt. And I have had to face that head on, and I just talk to it and say, you can go to hell. And I then have to say, okay, so if I'm going to tell fear to go, what am I replacing it with? You remember we said we're releasing, so what am I receiving? If I'm going to release fear, right? And I'm going to release shame, and I'm going to release guilt, what am I replacing it with then? Because I can release all that stuff out and still be quiet, still say nothing. If I'm going to be this fearless person, and fearless doesn't mean that you got to come out and be loud and boisterous. Fearless just means that I know who I am. I know what's inside of me. I know that God has created this gift, this talent, this passion in me. So I do have a right to speak on it. I have a right to say something. I have a right, again, to be here. So I have, and I will get nervous. I was nervous coming here with y'all. I woke up way, way earlier than I probably should have. Thinking about it, wondering about it. Was I going to say the right things? Was I the right person Cindy chose to talk about the voice or to talk about communication? Because I struggle in it. I struggle, especially with my kids and my family. Woo, Lord. I struggle and I have learned the greatest gift I will teach my children is humility. Because I believe a parent should say they're sorry. I believe a parent should ask for forgiveness. So I'm one that will wake my kids up at 2 a.m. after we've had like our little button of heads, and I'll be like, I just wanted to tell you I'm sorry. Please forgive me for the things I said, or how angry I was, or how I raised my voice. So I struggle still, and I struggled this morning wondering like, whew, okay, I'm coming up in here. But what I told myself was I released fear, and my faith I put ahead of it. And I just say, if Cindy called my name out to be in here, then God, you meant for me to be here. That's the same thing I say about my job, because it is days that I am like, are you sure I'm supposed to be here? Like, are you sure I'm supposed to be the associate executive director? And then I remind myself, no, you put my name on it. Then if you put my name on it, I'm supposed to be there. When I'm with my kids, and I'm single parenting, and it gives me emotion thinking about it right now. Because you know already as a parent, if you're a parent or you love something, you already feel those things of like, am I doing it right? Am I loving it well? Is it in alignment with the right things I'm supposed to do? Are you sure? And I have those doubts and those fears that I'm not doing the right thing. And then I remind myself, you know what, God, you gave them to me. You said you called me their mother. You didn't. You chose that. Okay, then fear you can go to hell. I'm supposed to be their mother. I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to be here. And so I speak to my fear. I have conversations with it. I tell it you can't be there. I'll tell it that it doesn't, where it belongs. I'll replace it with things. I'll say no. In place of fear, I put God's peace. In place of fear, I put God's purpose for me. In place of fear, I put my passion in front of that. In place of fear, I put my faith in front of that. And sometimes, like Joyce Meyer says, sometimes you do it afraid. Many a meetings I walk into, trembling inside, hoping I got the right thing to say, hoping I'm going to do the right thing. But I walk in afraid. And I just already remind myself, I'm already loved and I'm already chosen. So I'm supposed to be here.
Very good. I'm going to give you a high five. That was a word for me.
Another portion of our program today is talking about something that I've had to battle with that was addressed earlier, and that was overcoming the tendency to underestimate your own potential. We all have that challenge because we have an enemy, right? He wants to steal, kill, and destroy. And he's wanting to put us in that place where we are not embracing that full freedom that's ours in Christ. But whom the Son has set free is what? Free indeed. So we all have a potential to really thrive, to experience a full life, because Jesus came that we might have life and have it more abundantly. And so for this portion of our workshop right now, I want to talk about that victory that is ours, that victory that Jesus has made possible. But you know what? The choice is ours. We can choose that life, that freedom. We can choose to be overcomers. And we can choose to be victorious. But sometimes we need a little rally. So think of this hour as that pep rally of sorts to bring you to that place to say, just like Kenya brought forth in her talk, the opportunity to say, fear, get the hell out of here. So we need to not allow that lie of the enemy that's saying you are not worthy, you shouldn't be here, but instead to overcome, and it begins with your thoughts. So in the handouts on page 1, you see at the top the scripture, and it's one of my favorites, particularly in this translation, which is Proverbs 4:23, that reads, "Be careful how you think. Your life is shaped by your thoughts." Be careful how you think. Come on now, be careful. Come on. How you think, right? Because your life is shaped by your thoughts. You know, there's two sides to how voice is developed, how that confidence, that influence is released. And I'm going to talk about the first one, and that's right here. Because as you think, so are you. And those thoughts, when we made Jesus the Lord of our life, our thoughts are still in that old place. But behold, we are new creations. And we have that full life of the power of the Holy Spirit living inside of us. But if that voice is one that does not align with the full plan that God has, sometimes you don't even know it, but you certainly see the manifestation of it, right? Yeah. Because when you feel, when you believe, when you are thinking you are not capable, you have to give yourself a pep talk. And I love how that we were encouraged to we articulate, we give it a name, but then we put it in a place that is no longer defining us. And then we accept and we declare and make a transition of who we are. So who's willing to just take a minute and share possibly what you're thinking? Could be good or it could be, who knows? But there could be thoughts that people have planted or imparted, right, by their conversation, their opinions, or it could be thoughts straight from the pit of hell. But regardless of those thoughts, we have a way to know if they align with God's very plan and purpose for our life. And we have the Word of God, and we have the Holy Spirit, who's our helper, our advocate, our standby, that will help us to really align our life, our perspective, with the very full purpose that God has. But we have to choose that life. We have to choose and be intentional. And sometimes we need to write it down. So think of this consideration, and that is when you feel you're capable. It's like me when I got my new iPhone Pro. I mean, my God, it took me a whole weekend to get that thing shifted over to the new everything, right? And the whole time I kept saying, I can do this. Everything within me said, you're getting too old for this new upgrade, right? But in my space, as I just kept declaring out of my mouth, out loud, something happened. It was like this surge just kind of percolated up. And I had this thought, try this, go this way. And it navigated me through the process of finally getting that phone where it had shifted over with all the apps, everything I need to proceed. In life, we have to stir ourselves up like David. You know, he was at a place that they were ready to kill him because the family had been taken by an enemy. And it says in God's word that he stirred himself up. There is something about giving ourselves that pep talk. Or, as Kenya mentioned, surrounding us with a tribe of women who are there to rally alongside, to be there to help us as we're navigating some of those twists and turns of life. But for me, I have found that looking at my life through God's eyes, it does something. And particularly as when I got my new prescription, which I love my new glasses, but what I love about it most is I can see more clearly. So I'm giving you a cheat sheet of some of my favorite ones that's in your packet. And my daughter did an excellent job of writing out my declarations, what I see that God has stirred in my heart over the years with scriptures. You can cut these and put these around if you want, but I want you to think about and envision, because as we think, right, so are we. And like I said in that scripture at the very beginning, we need to be careful what and how you think. And so for me, sometimes I need to give myself that prep talk. You know, when I was in sports, we would rally around, right? And the coach would have us say, just as Kenya had us make a declaration. Well, sometimes we need to, like Cindy Trim encourages us, commanding your morning. I command my day, my life. I steer it along the path that God is, at my time and season, is awakening that this is the time. Like Esther, it is for this season that I am here. And to do that, I need to know I am victorious and I am capable. Now, in the back of your pack, there's a doodle sheet in case you want to doodle during lunch. But turn around your pack. I made it so you can just lift it up and see it. I can see right there, Mashari, right in the very back. What does that say?
I am transformed.
There you go. What do we have?
I'm unique.
I'm unique. Who else? I love it. What else do we have, people?
I'm created with a purpose.
I love it. Someone else?
I'm chosen.
Woo! Good. Who else?
I'm beautiful.
Love it.
I don't know if it's on here, but
Hey, let's keep it real, right? But I'll tell you what. I remember my son, Crystal's brother. He's a tall dude. He's like 6'5", and we had one of those kind of tiffs, right? And he said, "Mom, seriously, you are peculiar." I said, "Hallelujah! I'm a peculiar person." He's like, "Mom, I know you're crazy now, but you know what? When you get yourself at that place when you have exercise, just like we're talking those 15-minute moments, right? When you exercise your spirit and your heart and get your thoughts aligned with the very purpose that God has, what happens? At those awkward moments, out of the abundance of your heart, your mouth is going to speak. And it's going to be a declaration. You know, it's funny how that when you're in that place of uncomfortableness or fear, that what you have here is what's going to come out. So give yourself that opportunity, and that's our next exercise. Come on now, let's make it fun, right? So as you look at page 5, the print, I'm sorry, is small, but in your packet are Post-it notes. And we have your black pen, or if you want some color, we got some color pens around the room. But let's give you time for about 3. Write 3 things that you see through God's eyes. And make that as something that you can post in your house, work, car, those places that you frequent most. And take a moment right now to write them on your Post-it notes. What are they? If you need help, need a start, then use some of the ones I shared in the packet of materials. So when I was in sports, in order to prepare for the running that I did, and I didn't really particularly like running, but I was good at it. And so one of the things during the off season to get me to the season, the coach would have me do cross country. And in the preparation of that, there were certain exercises and goals that I needed to achieve for that long race that was before me. You and I, we're on a long race, aren't we? It's not a quick sprint. It's a long race. It's not a contest against another either. It's one that God will reveal. What does he say in Proverbs? Trust in him completely. Lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight and plain the path. But in this journey, this race of life, he wants to give us a plan. And what you wrote down is a start. But his Holy Spirit will awaken certain things at certain times, because he'll change it up just like my coach did. Because we get too much in that funk. And our muscles, if you know anything about muscles, if you do the same exercise over and over and over again, if you don't change it up, it will become ineffective. But we have a God. He might never change, but he's creative. And he wants to awaken that faith in us. So he's going to bring us to a place where there's going to be friction. It's not going to be easy. And in that place, that word that you have just written, those declarations, will be at that place to remind you once again of the plan that he has for you at this season and this time. Sometimes he'll tell me things that will not make sense, but later it does, because he prepared me for that challenge, for that hill that's ahead. And I didn't understand why this, exercise, these scriptures, the journaling, the teaching, the TED Talks, whatever it might be, was prepping me and putting me at a place so that seed would have root in me, so that when the mountain comes, I'm ready for it. But he wants to help us be ready in life. And all he asks is that we ask and seek and knock. So I want you to, as in handout 7, it says, write the vision and make it plain. Because confidence is a skill that you can learn, write down some action steps to help build that confidence in your life. And then, once you've done that, find a partner and let's talk together. Get your tribe today. That's why we kept it real small, so you can find someone to just talk about what we covered this morning, or what I'm covering right now. But what is your action step or steps to build that skill of confidence? Because it's there. This is the confidence that we have in him, that if we ask anything according to his will, he hears us. We know that he hears us. We know that we have the prayers that we have declared. But there's a confidence that's there, but it sometimes needs to be awakened, stirred, and developed. So write that down, and then pair up, get a buddy, and talk about those things, because that's all a part of learning and evolving and becoming.
Okay, ladies. Getting some good stuff? Yes. Okay, so my segment, building CCI, not FBI, but CCI, confidence, courage, and influence. It all comes about by the way you use your voice, the tone, pitch, warmth, diction, and the way you phrase your statements. You need to be intentional about how you express your thoughts and emotions through your power of your voice. Now, what does it mean to be intentional? Can someone help me out with that? What do you think it means to be intentional?
Do something on purpose.
Okay. Anyone else? There's no right or wrong answer.
Be consistent.
Okay. That's good. Is that it? Yes.
Something that Kenya mentioned, have goals and put those on the table. So if you go into a situation, have your end goal in mind.
Okay. So we got goals. What was yours, Kenya?
Consistent.
Consistency. And what was yours?
Intentional.
Intentional. In Luke 6:45, it tells us that what is stored in our hearts will be seen by the fruit and heard by our words. Now I have my little clapper here, because normally Cindy knows when I do my talks with Cindy this ministry, I have my little clappers here. So when I think I have a good nugget for you, I'm going to clap my little clapper, and that's for you to notate that in your notes. You're familiar, I'm sure, with Proverbs 23:7, right? Who can say it for me? I see some heads shaking. What does it say?
Your words, something about your words.
As a man thinketh, so is he. Right. So as a woman thinketh, so are you. For example, if you feel like you're anxious and think that danger may be imminent, it'll be reflected in your voice. I encourage you to become aware. Not only I encourage you, I challenge you to become aware of the counterproductivity thoughts that come in your mind and redirect them. You may have to do a 360, 380, or a U-turn. Redirect them to be productive ones. So now we're going to do a very short visual exercise. We're among friends, so I hope you don't mind just closing your eyes for a moment. And I want you to think back to a time when you felt insecure or threatened. Think about how your voice sounded. Okay, open your eyes. Did your voice get higher? Or did it get quiet or aggressive? Who wants to share? Because, sharing is caring, and iron sharpens iron, and we're in a mastermind group, so we want to learn from each other. Oh, yeah.
Well, it's for me especially because English is my second language. I could not even say a word in English. I was like so fearful, so it was horrible.
So what was the tone of your voice if you
It
were
was like kind of shaking.
shaking?
Like
Okay.
shaking, like I'm about to cry and to fall apart.
Oh, wow. Okay. Anyone else?
Sounded, for me, I sounded too stern
Ah,
because I was trying to look and appear confident
Yeah.
and like I'm in control and I'm not bothered, but it was coming across very stern and then just tight.
okay. Others? Yes.
I was aggressive and loud.
That's how I am. I was going to share that. With me, I feel, when I'm threatened, I feel like a caged animal, so I get aggressive and loud. Anyone else? Okay.
Desperate,
Desperate?
like the desperation in your voice is
Mm-hmm.
weak. Maybe it feels a little weak. Your voice feels weak because you
Mhm.
feel desperate. You feel like
Right.
To be mindful of my thoughts and to cast down evil ones. Also to practice breathing from my diaphragm.
Very good. Anyone else? Come on, guys, you might be helping out one of your sisters here. Okay, yes.
One thing that I've been doing is like practicing like recording and putting. He was so interested in my voice. And my son is like, "Why do you want to do that?" I was like, "No, I want to practice, make sure that I have a normal voice. You know, I think about a situation and go and record myself. I've been doing this.
You're getting ahead of
The
us.
first time that I heard, I was scared. I was like, "It sounds crazy."
Yeah, I think most people don't like hearing their voice.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I said that I need to stop putting family or a particular person above me and always remember that I am priority. Because sometimes I find certain people, especially family members or people that I really love and care about, I tend to put them on a pedestal and then I minimize myself. And that has brought so much pain, and I realize that it also has hindered me. And so I have to constantly, and I wrote down, stop putting those people above me. And I said, because I am the prize and I deserve to be treated accordingly. And if they can't, I do need to learn to keep those boundaries up instead of being guilt-ridden when they're, throwing the guilt, like, oh, you think you're so special, blah, blah, blah. So, that's it.
Others?
I have one. Not to be so communicative, too talkative.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have a lot of thoughts, so I talk it out loud instead of keeping it in. So sometimes when I'm sharing, I'm over communicating, and to be more concise and brief, and speak in a nice, comfortable tone, rather than a very aggressive tone or too timid sounding, but just be moderate, cool, calm, and not ramble, and not be so repetitive. So those are things that I know I could improve in, and not be so loud. You can, sound gentle when you need to.
Yeah, yeah. You just did my talk, so I can just sit down right now. It's all over. You just did it, okay? Yes.
For me, I think being in tune with my emotional triggers in conversations, because there are certain things that I'll hear and process in a certain way that can trigger my output. So being mindful of the way I filter that information. If someone's giving me emotion, I don't have to own that emotion,
That's good.
which dictates how it comes out.
Yeah.
So rather get the facts from what they're saying and respond to the facts, rather than, the additional emotion.
Yes.
As I called back earlier, is making sure to take deep breaths.
Yeah.
Because I like angry when I get really angry if someone's threatening me or
Yeah.
scared. So I just take a deep breath and just talk calmly and just don't get too hyper or angry. Just we're breathing, just steady breathing.
You probably like me, you feel like you're being attacked. Yeah. Yes.
So I put down, practice healthy boundaries and energy management.
That's good.
So I think for me, I sometimes feel like I always have to be, if someone approaches me with a conversation, but I'm busy or doing something else, or I need to manage my time differently, I don't always put that boundary out there to communicate with somebody, like, this isn't a good time for me, can we, do this in 30 minutes or something like that. And so what I realized, during my workday, is it sucks my energy in a different direction, and then I don't take care of the things that I need to do. So when we talk about confidence, I think being confident about your boundaries and how you want to command your day, and not allowing different distractions, even if you feel like maybe you're not giving to another person, but if they're coming into your space and wanting to take from you without permission, is like granting yourself that permission to say, this is what I need and this is going to be more productive if we're able to do it in this space.
Gotta be on an energy budget. Energy budget.
Yeah. Sure.
Oh, yeah, so I know when my internal state is anxious,
I find that I might be apologizing more than I should. So, or just sorry, I'm so sorry. You know, sometimes that can come out, so I'm just gonna stop apologizing.
That's good.
You know, when it's not a context needed, like
Right.
like I said, if I'm anxious, that's what I find comes out
Mhm.
sometimes. So that's gonna stop.
When is it gonna stop? When is it gonna stop?
Oh, now.
Well, okay. Okay.
It stops now.
Okay.
Because going back to what Kenya was saying is that if you understand that you're loved and chosen, and that you have a right to be in the space that God has opened for you, then you just walk in that truth and you don't apologize for it. And listen to understand rather than respond. Sometimes when you're listening because you have something to say after, but maybe not necessarily listening for understanding first, then that'll help you to respond. So listen to understand versus respond, listening to respond. And yeah, that was what I had to say.
Yeah, you guys got some good points there. I hope you got something from each other. It may or may not be a surprise to you, but generally, people are lazy. It's not the lazy content that you're thinking. Yeah, I said it. People are lazy. Lazy listeners. An attractive voice commands attention. It gets interrupted less and influences behavior and decisions. That's a point. That's a point there. Okay. Did y'all catch that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You're talking right.
For example, monotone. Now, if I stand here and talk like this in same tone all the time and say, oh, the sun is green, the sun is red, or the sky is blue, you're going to start fading away from me.
Right.
You're going to be doodling or thinking about, why am I sitting here? I can be out doing something else. So avoid the monotone and helping other people to be lazy listeners because you want them to pay attention to what you're having to say. How are things, well, some things can help make your voice strong or different. A strong voice is interrupted less, ladies. Speak, and this is what you were talking about my speech. Speak in a smooth pace or at a smooth pace, not fast. Because if I were talking fast, you wouldn't understand what I'm saying. You would say, what is the word she's saying? You just fade out and become a lazy listener. So speak at a smooth pace. Inflection. Now, personally, I'm going to confess that I was kind of hard to understand what inflection was. So as I was telling my friend over here, I go to YouTube a lot, so I had to go to a YouTube channel and look at what is inflection. Inflection, where you place emphasis on a certain word, it's warm, and you speak with certainty or uncertainty at the end of your sentence. It shows up in your inflection. Now, two people can say the same thing, but if their inflections are placed in different spots, it can have a different meaning. Warmth is one of the characteristics that successful people have. It shines through in the power of their voice, and it's like a warm blanket taken out of the dryer or a towel. You ever took something warm out of the dryer, or say you get out the shower and you got one of those towel warmers, you wrap it around you, it feels all nice and cozy and soothing and comforting. Diction. When important vowels and consonants. And I had trouble with that word. I had to go to the confession again. I had to go to the internet and find out how to pronounce consonants, because for some reason I was saying continents, and that was, as you know, those are two different words. So I had to slow myself down and say consonants. But when important vowels and consonants are dropped, people can miss the meaning of what you're saying. Ladies, ladies, ladies. Again, when important vowels and consonants are dropped, people can miss what you're saying. With the right tone and pitch, people can be hanging on to your every word, waiting to hear what you got to say next. You ever heard speakers like that? You're just hungry to what they're going to say next. Why? Because they know
They have the CCI. They have the confidence, they have the courage, and they have the influence.